What does it mean to lose everything in a single night? For Elizabeth Smart, a 14-year-old girl from Salt Lake City, safety vanished in the blink of an eye. Her childhood bedroom, once a sanctuary, became the stage for one of the most shocking abductions in American history. On June 5, 2002, Elizabeth Smart was kidnapped from her bedroom in the middle of the night. Her sudden disappearance ignited one of the largest missing child searches in U.S. history. For 9 long months, the world wondered if she was alive. What few realized at the time was that she was being held captive less than 20 miles away, forced into a nightmare orchestrated by Brian David Mitchell and his accomplice, Wanda Barzi. This case would expose both the darkest corners of human cruelty and the astonishing power of survival. Brian David Mitchell was born in 1953 in Salt Lake City. Outwardly, he appeared like many others in the community, but underneath was a man consumed by delusion and instability. Mitchell grew up in a fractured household marked by dysfunction and early rebellion. His early life revealed troubling signs: arrogance, manipulation, and a dangerous fascination with power and control. By his 20s, Mitchell had already developed a pattern of failed relationships and disturbing behaviors. He was abusive in his marriages, controlling and erratic, and by the late 1990s, he had embraced a self-proclaimed religious identity, calling himself Emmanuel. He believed he was a prophet chosen by God. In reality, Mitchell was a drifter who masked mental illness and predatory tendencies behind scripture. Wanda Barzi, his second wife, was equally unstable. She fell under Mitchell's control, enabling and participating in his crimes. Together, they spiraled into delusions that justified their cruelty. Elizabeth Smart was born in 1987, the second of 6 children in a close-knit Mormon family. She was bright, talented, and deeply loved. Known for her gentle spirit and musical abilities, particularly on the harp, Elizabeth represented the innocence and promise of youth. Her family lived in a quiet neighborhood in Salt Lake City, where doors were often left unlocked. For her parents, Ed and Lois, raising their children in a safe, supportive environment was a priority. Elizabeth's life before June 2002 was full of typical childhood joys: school, church, family dinners, and dreams of the future. It's this sharp contrast between Elizabeth's innocence and Mitchell's corruption that makes her story so harrowing. In the months before the abduction, Mitchell had occasionally worked odd jobs at the Smart household. He presented himself as a humble handyman, but his erratic behavior made some uneasy. He was, in reality, studying the family, learning the layout of the house, the routines, and identifying vulnerabilities. Despite his alarming religious proclamations in public, few could have predicted he would escalate to kidnapping. Yet in hindsight, the red flags were there. His growing obsession with young girls, his insistence on divine visions, and his manipulative control over Barzi. Mitchell had grown convinced that he was commanded to take multiple young girls as wives. Elizabeth, to him, became the target of this twisted vision. On June 4, 2002, he broke into the Smart family's home through a kitchen window and used a knife to enter her bedroom. His timing was calculated. He knew exactly when and where to strike. Shortly after 2 a.m. on June 5th, Mitchell woke Elizabeth by pressing a knife to her throat. He whispered threats, warning her that he would kill her and her family if she resisted. Elizabeth, terrified and only 14 years old, was forced to quietly leave her bed and follow him out into the darkness. Her younger sister, Mary Catherine, pretended to be asleep but witnessed the abduction. Too scared to move, she would later provide key details about the intruder. Mitchell led Elizabeth through the woods into the mountains above Salt Lake City. There, in a hidden encampment, he performed a so-called marriage ceremony and began the months of torment and captivity that would follow. The next morning, panic erupted in the Smart household. Elizabeth's bed was empty, and the window screen was cut. Police were called immediately, and the search began. The case exploded into national headlines. Volunteers poured into Salt Lake City to help search the mountains and neighborhoods. Posters with Elizabeth's face appeared everywhere, her smile becoming a haunting reminder of what was at stake. For weeks, the family endured the agony of not knowing whether she was alive. Early suspicion fell on Richard Ricci, a handyman who had previously worked for the Smarts, but this lead would ultimately prove false, consuming precious time. Despite exhaustive searches, investigators initially had little to go on. It wasn't until Mary Catherine recalled the voice of the kidnapper that the focus shifted. She remembered it was Brian David Mitchell, the drifter who once worked at their home. Still, with little physical evidence and a man adept at vanishing into the fringes of society, authorities struggled to locate him. Elizabeth, meanwhile, was forced into a life of abuse and constant threats. Hidden in plain sight with her captors who sometimes took her into public disguised in veils and robes. 9 months later, on March 12, 2003, Elizabeth was spotted in Sandy, Utah, just 18 miles from her home. She was walking alongside Mitchell and Barzy, both dressed in bizarre religious-style clothing. Two citizens who had seen her story on America's Most Wanted recognized her and alerted police. At first, Elizabeth denied her identity, fearing Mitchell's threats. But once police separated her, the truth came out. She was Elizabeth Smart, alive after 9 months in captivity. Mitchell and Barzy were arrested on the spot. The road to justice was long. Mitchell attempted to use his supposed mental illness to avoid trial, but in 2010, he was finally declared competent. In December 2010, after weeks of testimony detailing his delusions and Elizabeth's bravery in recounting her ordeal, Mitchell was found guilty of kidnapping and unlawful transportation of a minor. He was sentenced to life in federal prison without parole. Wanda Barzy, who played a supporting but complicit role, was sentenced to 15 years in prison. She was released in 2018, sparking outrage from the Smart family and public. Elizabeth Smart not only survived but transformed her trauma into advocacy. She became a national voice for missing children, victims' rights, and resilience. She founded the Elizabeth Smart Foundation and continues to educate communities about safety and recovery. Her family's pain never fully healed, but her survival provided hope to countless others. For law enforcement, the case highlighted the importance of never giving up, even after months of uncertainty. Elizabeth Smart's story is one of darkness and light. It shows how a single night can destroy a family's sense of safety, but also how courage, resilience, and the will to live can overcome the most horrifying of circumstances. In the end, Brian David Mitchell tried to break a child. Instead, he created a survivor who refuses to let his evil define her. If you found this case as chilling and inspiring as we did, please consider liking this video, subscribing to our channel, and sharing your thoughts in the comments below. What lessons do you believe society must learn from Elizabeth Smart's ordeal? Together, by remembering these stories, we honor the victims and ensure their voices are never silenced.